Welcome to the Vegan Pulse. I am your host, Nancy Arenas. Today, my guests are Graham and Annette Henry. Annette and Graham created Henry and Henry. Their mission is to build an online community in order to promote the benefits of a whole food, plant-based diet and to remove the barriers that may be holding people back from making the potentially life-enhancing change from a Western diet to a more conscious, sustainable, and planet-friendly way of eating. Stick around. I want to introduce them to you. Hi, Annette and Graham. How are you?
Hello. Really good. Thank you. Great to be here.
So nice to have you both on the show. I surely appreciate that. I'm going to ask each of you to take a turn telling me how you came to veganism and then how you met and where you're at, and then we'll take it from there. So let's start with you, Annette. How did you come to veganism?
The long and slow route is the honest answer. It was about 20 years ago that I had a health condition. I had endometriosis. And in order to avoid further surgery, I went looking for something alternative, something that might work. And I chanced upon a book about healing through nutrition. And the book set me on a path that I continued to follow. It started me off by getting me off dairy. So that was the first thing, which seemed to make a big difference to me. And from then on, I became very, very interested in nutrition and amazed that it could make such a difference because I didn't have any more surgery. I didn't even go back to the doctors with it. And so I became completely fascinated. And the more I learned, the more I became more conscious of what I was eating, both in terms of my health and gradually the other aspects as well. I was starting to think more about organic food and the environment and noticing that if I ate this way, then this was also better for animals. So it was a very, very slow process and I was losing bits along the way. I wasn't a big meat eater in the first place, so that wasn't difficult. But there were other things. There was the eggs and the fish and so on. They took a while, but I did eventually let go of them completely. And that's part of our joint journey, really, because we went on a raw food retreat together. And of course, probably, of course, I would imagine for most people that was vegan. It was fully vegan, and it was quite exciting for us. We drove away afterwards saying we don't want to do that. But by the time we'd finished the journey, we were saying, maybe we should try that. Maybe we should do it. And we effectively became quite very plant-based, I would say, not fully vegan. I think it was still honey for a while, wasn't it? That held us back from being fully vegan. But that was it, really. So it's been about 4 years probably that we've been vegan now. And of course, it all comes together and you start to realize that there's a synergy to all this. What is right for my health, really right for my health, that's also right for the planet, is also right for the welfare of animals. And it's all part of the same big picture. And it's very easy to see from this perspective. It took me a while to grasp it earlier on, but I've got it now.
Exactly, because some people are so disconnected because they don't understand that we're all, like you said, there's a synergy between all of us. And what we do to one, we do to the other.
Yes.
Graham, your story.
Yeah, well, actually, it's really interesting because I've got a similar story in terms of, for me, it was the health aspects that moved me towards veganism. But it was really Annette, because when we met and I realized how she'd healed herself through nutrition. And there I was, over 200 pounds in weight and absolutely suffering for it because I had high blood pressure, I had high cholesterol, and I've been most of my adult life as well, and I have never found a solution. And I just really fit into the way of eating that Annette was doing. And suddenly the weight just started to disappear gradually and consistently. And I couldn't believe it because I wasn't on a diet, I wasn't counting calories, I was just eating differently and effectively eating a more plant-based diet. And really, it was, I still hadn't joined the dots together. I still hadn't become fully vegan. And it was really what Annette has just described, having gone on the retreat and then started to make realizations. I then became ultimately fully vegan as well at the same time 4 years ago. And that's been the driving force for us ever since.
That is great. And it's great that you both found each other and you both went on this journey together. So you have a support system and you have an experience that attests to the fact that eating a whole food, plant-based vegan diet does help with any ailment that you might have.
Yeah, absolutely. And interesting, when you said you found each other, we actually refound each other because we met as students back in 1983, 84, showing our age there. And then we went for over 25, 26 years without reconnecting. And then we realized that we were still both single, got back in touch, we got married, and the rest is history. So we did re-find each other.
Awesome. That is a great story. And you are now based in Germany.
Yes,
that's right.
We're based in Germany's capital, Berlin, which is a very vegan-friendly city.
It is.
We feel very fortunate to be here because there is a real vegan vibe here, and we feel very much that we've met our tribe.
Wow. And now, because of your change in diet and your newfound health, you both started a company, Henry and Henry. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, well, we went through a few iterations, but we finally got to Henry and Henry, and we give classes. What's surprising about the change is that we originally thought we would be coming out here and giving live classes, but of course coronavirus happened, and so we've done everything online. So we've had to learn how to use a completely different medium from what we've been used to, and it's been pretty good actually. And as you've said to us earlier in the introduction that we had with you, it's so lovely to connect to people across all different continents and countries. So in many ways, it's opened things up for us. And we're able to attract people who might not otherwise come and visit our classes. So from that perspective, it's been quite good. I think we've got used to it now, and we quite enjoy it. So, but I still hope we get to do some live classes as well, because we teach about food and about how a whole food plant-based diet can work for you. Because that's one of the difficulties people have. They go vegan, and because it's different, they don't necessarily know how best to make it work. But we did a year-long course with two of America's really top whole food plant-based educators. In fact, their course is called Mastering Raw Food Nutrition, but the course is actually much broader than that. It's not just raw food, and it's Rick and Karen Dina, who are based in California. And doctors Rick and Carandina, in fact, and that's been superb. It's really helped to educate us and inform us of all the little gaps that we didn't know about, because there were a lot. When you're subject to what the media flings at you, you can't form a proper picture, and we needed to do that if we were going to teach other people how to get this right, and we needed to make sure we were getting it right. We made adjustments along the way too. So yeah, that's where we're up to at the moment. Is there anything you wanted to add?
Yeah. So again, I mean, Annette's described it very elegantly there, and we really just want to help to inspire and motivate others to come to this way of eating and ultimately way of living. And we realise that it's important to meet people where they are. We're not about preaching. We're about showing what's possible, showing how utterly joyful it can be to eat plant-based food. It doesn't have to be boring. A lot of people that have still not made the move towards plant-based think it's going to be prohibitive, and we want to show it's not. It's actually it's closing one door, opening another door, and finding this whole new exciting world. And that's what we want to convey to others as well.
That is awesome. So you give classes online or coaching online? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, both in fact. Yes, because we have groups and we have one-to-ones with people as well. So yes, both.
And we organise events, and we'll maybe invite speakers at the events. So we've got one coming up soon, which is about how health professionals can be change makers, which we feel is really important. And just people who have remarkable stories to tell, or who've been real proponents of change, and contributed to a more conscious world.
That's wonderful. And that's exactly what we need, because as Annette said before about what the media flings at you, you know, meat and dairy are a big corporation, and they make these stories to confuse people. And confused people don't make changes. They just rather, you know, stay because they don't know. And I think that that is the propaganda that they rely on to make sure that people don't change or are, you know, kind of hold back, because this is the way it's always been for them. And it's better to stay with something, you know, than, you know, change is scary at times, right? But meat and dairy is more scary. And people, people need to know this. And that's why we need people like you who educate everyone out there, and not only educate them, but have testimonials because you've experienced it in your life.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, we really enjoy what we do as well. And I think it's important to be passionate, because, you know, you could just, we want to talk the talk and walk the walk. And people, when they get to know us, they see how we live this, it imbues every minute of every day that we live. And that's really important. I think people sense that when they meet us as well.
Right. And when they see actual people who didn't die from protein deficiency, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And they're like, oh, I just had a post on Facebook the other day talking about how, you know, people say, oh, vegans have to be careful for B12 or deficiency or D. And then it says, and meat eaters have to be careful about diabetes, cancer, heart disease. And somebody posted something that's not true. So myself, instead of arguing, I'd rather present research from actual doctors and scientists that tell you otherwise, you know. And I think people forget sometimes that we've been conditioned, by no one's fault, this is just the way the society has been, to think a certain way, and this is the normal. I hate that word, but you know, this is the way everybody has to do it. And just like anything else, you have to keep, you know, educating yourself. You have to keep looking for the true answers, and it doesn't come from doing it the way it's always been.
That's right.
Exactly. And it's really good to have pioneers like you as well, who are putting the message out there. We love what you're doing as well, and it's really, you know, it's so important.
Well, I think it's nice for people to hear the stories from different people from around the world talking about how they came to veganism, and of course their efforts to enhance and move along veganism, because we're really trying to help other people get healthy.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, we found it for ourselves, and therefore we're trying to be kind. And like you stated before, not just for the planet and the animals, but for people's own health.
Exactly.
Very
That's
much
it,
so.
completely.
Yeah.
And even though our own families are not necessarily behind what we do, which seems, you know, it sometimes seems like I can't believe that that they wouldn't see the benefits, but everybody has to make their own decision. All we can do is help to show what we've done and hope that they then say, yeah, maybe that's not such a bad idea after all.
Exactly. And that's true. It's so sad that most people have trouble with their families and friends. You know, they're the last to join, because they know you. You would think that they would be the first to join you because they do know you, and you wouldn't want them, you know, you're trying to give them something to help them along, and you think they'd be the first to join you, but they're usually the last.
Yes. They don't like to be told.
Even though you're living proof that, you know, you have, myself, I overcame fibromyalgia when I went vegan. I suffered so many years with pain, you know, 7 and above every day. It was very trying, exhausting, you know, and all of that. And then I became vegan, and then I had no pain, and I was like, I think there's something wrong, because I had not had a day without experiencing pain. So it's crazy how people just don't understand that we are really fighting for them, even if they don't realize it.
Yes.
That's really interesting to hear as well, because we've seen there is some really interesting research about particularly about a raw food diet being helpful towards improving outcomes for those suffering from fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue, which was of interest to Annette, because she
I had chronic fatigue, so I took a big interest in that. I mean, that it's raw, but that's because that's what was studied. But I would say that it would be pretty much identical for a whole food plant-based diet based on what we know. I think it's the whole food aspect of it that's key, and that's presumably what you've discovered for yourself.
Yes. And the reason why, besides the animals, I went vegan for the animals, but then my reward from the universe was that my fibromyalgia, my bursitis, my joint swellings, my migraines, they all went away.
Wow.
Fabulous. Yeah.
That's exciting.
And I think it's because I was compassionate to the animals that the world, the universe decided I'll be compassionate to her,
Yeah.
And I think bottom line is that people really are just disconnected because that's the way they've been conditioned. But I think truly deep in the heart of most individuals, I won't say every, but most individuals, is that they don't want to cause harm to anyone. And they do want to be harmonious and at peace.
Yeah. Yeah. There was something we heard the other day. I think it was, you may have heard of Earthling Ed, who's a big proponent of veganism in the UK and does a lot of international tours. And he was talking about that we have this disconnect between we've got the wild animals, we've got the farmed animals, and we've got the pet animals, and we look at each of them differently. And actually, they're all animals ultimately. Isn't that strange how we compartmentalize the way we think about those different classes of animals? It's quite crazy, and it's very human made. Which is, it just amazes me, really. And
people forget that we are animals.
Also.
Exactly. Yeah.
So like we're all animals, and like there's different, just like there's different religions and different ethnicities, there's different animals. That's it. And I don't think that one is over the other. I think that we're all supposed to be, harmonious together. And just because the animals don't speak English or French or Italian, we don't speak bird or turtle or whale. So if we think we're so smart, why don't we speak their languages?
That would be fun, wouldn't it, if we could?
If I could talk to the animals, it could also be very heartbreaking, right? So, but I will have links to your website for people to check it out and maybe join some of your webinars or classes. And also, if there's a message that you would like to leave us with for our audience, now is the time.
We'd just like to say that if anyone cares to contact us after this, we always love to hear from people. And if we've inspired anyone, we really hope that we hope we have inspired people listening to this. And we just wish everyone a really successful journey of their own. And I think that if everybody moves in the direction towards veganism, then the planet would be a whole load better.
That's great. And you are available to anyone, anywhere in the world, because it is online. And that's one of the wonderful things about Zoom and all these new applications that we can now use that we weren't using so much before COVID. So COVID has a couple pluses.
Silver linings.
Just the time difference may be a problem for some people, but unfortunately we haven't got the power to change that.
Well, thank you again for joining us. I appreciate both of you. Annette and Graham, it's been a pleasure.
And,
thank you very much,
and for us too. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye. Thank you for joining us on another Vegan Pulse. I am your host, Nancy Arenas. Please check out our website, like us on Facebook, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you have a pulse, you have a purpose. Live vegan.